Hey, what's up guys, it's Bronson. Welcome to my first YouTube episode. Today we'll be going through how I approach a realistic tattoo. I'll be sharing my thought process throughout the video, as well as some pro tips to help level up your tattooing. So let's get into it. Okay guys, so let's just go over this design we've made for this tattoo. The only thing I've changed so far is the violin string, so it just brings something to the piece rather than sitting there by itself. And the only thing I've changed with the portrait is extended the hair down so it flows a bit further in the top and this bottom area down here. I did lighten the eyes more, and I'll be adding in a light grey as an extra effect to the eyes to achieve a slight glow you'll see later in the tattoo. And I added in some smoke. It's a really great way to have some soft flow rather than something a bit harsher like filigree. We are working with a bit more bolder lines and really clear harsh flow. I find smoke is really natural and looks really good in a tattoo. I want these areas to flow and be sweeping down this way with the leg rather than these small sections and not connecting. I don't want to have this dark area breaking up that large sweeping flow that I'm trying to achieve. You'll see I'm just mapping in some ideas, and then again down here I'm just wanting to add a bit more flow to the piece. This is a really good image. You can see I do warp it slightly, but smoke is such an organic object, it can be moved to fit areas to suit, like this area of the mouth where I know I really want to keep it clear and pull a lot of detail out of later in the tattoo. Now the bullet hole I added to really contrast all of my smooth textures in the face, and throughout this whole tattoo everything's really smooth except for this tight little pocket of detail. It's not easy to get all of these values really smooth, especially tight next to the smoke. You really have to take your time softly working your mag. If everything was really smooth, it's really easy for that hard work you put in to go unnoticed. And with this bullet hole, I really want everything to work together and be one big piece, so I'm adding some glass so that all aspects are flowing together nicely. So for this part of the tattoo, I'm starting off with a 13 round mag. I know that this area of the tattoo isn't in focus, so a larger mag is a great way to naturally achieve this. And tone wise, I'm starting from the darker end of my palette. And I use this to really do a lot of the harder work, mapping in my areas, and then I'll come back through later on and resaturate accurately with my lighter tones. And a lot of my realistic tattoos is done with a mag. Here is mostly a 13 and a 23 round mag for some of these larger areas and soft areas of the background. And I don't use any liners in something that isn't really sharp in focus, so I'd really like to take my time and use the edge of a mag to get that focus right. And here you'll see for the smoke around the strings and stuff, I will use a mag, but then on the strings I'm using a liner because that's where I want the sharpness, but my smoke I want nice and soft. I do complete this right side a little bit as it was a bit out of the camera's range, so I kind of smash that out and then move on to the hand. Now when tattooing the hand, I'm doing the same thing, just using my mag and my darker tones to map in the area at first. And with my darker tones, I'm really thinking about what's going on with the hand, what direction are the grooves heading in, and I'm angling my mag appropriately for that. I'm not really one to just get in and pack things and line out my shadows. I do like to build things up and really make things as realistic as possible. And you'll see here, although I'm tattooing the hand area, I do see that my stencil's fading in a really important area. If these strings were off, it's going to be really obvious, so I do go through and just map that in lightly and then get back down to working this hand up. Now also, a lot of the time when you see these grooves on the hands and stuff, your brain kind of picks it up as too strong. You see the detail and you see it too strong and too contrasted and too sharp. So knowing that I'm tattooing a female hand, I want to soften back what I'm seeing. I'm picking up that it's there, but I want to put it in a little bit more subtle. I'm not going to go putting it in with a liner. I still want it to be nice and soft. I'd rather use the edge of a 13 round mag, and if I want it a little bit sharper, then perhaps dropping down a mag size to a 9 round mag, or to a darker value. And again, I'm just using my mag for everything that's a little bit out of focus, and the string that I want really lifted forward and to be quite a loud feature, I do go through and line that. And when you're lining out a thin negative strip, I would always recommend just to make it a touch bigger. It's just going to be a little bit louder and a bit more effective. Sometimes if you were to try outline something that's ballpoint thin, you're really going to need the white to bring out that shape. So I always try and emphasize if I bring an effect into a piece, then usually I'll make that effect a bit more dramatic. Now, just thinking about this piece of glass that I'm about to tattoo, I know that it's a really transparent object, so I wouldn't have a drop shadow underneath it too much, especially there's no object under there to catch that drop shadow. So I actually almost reverse that, making it a little bit lighter underneath, as if some light's passing through, and getting my blacks more above it. Now, as we're approaching the portrait, I know that there's no 90-degree hard angle under the chin, so I am slowly kind of building up that shape with a mag and that line that's there. And again, with the shadow underneath the lip, just softly putting that in and mapping in my areas. And I'm certain that all that black is there in the mouth, so I do go through and put that in there with a mag, and then with a liner or the edge of a mag, I'll softly pull out those shadows in the right direction as I know the lines come down from the lip, and just building up my values appropriately. Now, it's really important when you're tattooing smoke, especially coming over the female portrait like that, I'm just softly using the edge of my mag. I know that the smoke is a really soft, natural looking object, so I don't want to go outlining it, and I find even bloodlining it will just create a look that's a bit too harsh. So softly building up these values. I'm not using a liner on the edge of them, just the edge of my mag, and slowly building up these values. And whenever I'm tattooing a portrait, I'm really thinking about what's actually going on with these angles and with these shadows and the direction that the skin is kind of going in, and trying to use my mag appropriately for that. Getting the mag moving in the right direction, flowing with things, rather than just randomly shading an area and then realizing that actually doesn't look right. And a lot of the time that will be the reason. You really want to pull out your shadows and slowly build out from these areas, rather than just seeing something, not understanding the object, and just giving it a go. With a little bit of knowledge, you're going to achieve a much nicer looking portrait. Now, with tattooing the eye, I like to move into the area with the edge of my 13 round mag and a light to mid-tone, and just map out the area as if I would if I was drawing, and really build up these tones. Areas that I'm certain on, perhaps the shadow, under the top eyelid, the pupil, and around these white highlights, I will use something a bit sharper and obviously darker. And I am saturating the eye, and I do at a later stage move in with the light grey. Obviously it's higher in value, but with these charcoal like tones, it almost appears higher in chroma, really standing out, and gives a glow to the piece when used in the right areas. And the same with the eyelashes here. I do start off with a 5 round liner, and if I want them a little bit thinner at the end, I'm actually more likely to use perhaps my 9 round mag and single out a needle or two of that and just push that in the right direction. It's going to look a lot sharper than even a 3 round liner or something like that. And as I'm tattooing the eyebrows, I'm really thinking about what the actual object is. I know it's these individual sharp hairs in a certain direction. Now that we're onto the really contrasting feature of this tattoo, like I was talking about in the design stage, all of this tattoo is really smooth, and now we're getting to this contrasting factor of this broken glass, so I really want to emphasize on that effect and separate it and contrast it from the rest of my work, and all the elements are going to complement each other. The portrait's going to complement the sharpness and vice versa. So I'm really wanting to make sure that this is nice and sharp, going through with a 5-round liner and packing this really solid. And I'm really glad that I decided to flow that smoke into the bullet hole. It's also helping set that direction of flow that I wanted for the piece, and also really bringing all these images together. Like I said, if I have an effect, I want it to flow and work with the whole tattoo. So whenever I can find a chance to kind of have some smoke wisping in or out of an object to help pull a little bit more dimension and life out of my piece, I'm always really keen to do that, and I always think it's really effective in the tattoo. So now I'm approaching the highlight part of my tattoo. I've decided to include, rather than just whites in my highlights, light grey ink. I'm using it for the glass to help separate that, rather than looking like some random blank triangles that I've left. It just helps to be a bit visually easier to read. I find if I have a crazy effect going on, it's a nice place to add this ink in. I do also use it through the lips and the eyes as just another value. I find it can be a little bit harsh sometimes, jumping straight from your black and grey to just using a really strong white. That's why having this higher value light grey is a really effective way to build and be the last puzzle piece to pull everything together, and it draws a lot of attention for the viewer looking at this tattoo. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Be sure to let me know down in the comments what you guys would like to see next. I really want this channel to be all about you guys and the knowledge that you would like to gain from me. So don't forget to turn on notifications, subscribe and like the video. See you guys next time.